Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Smythe. I'm the Education Coordinator for the Caregiver Resource Center, Orange County. We're so glad that you've joined us today for our third live stream, which we're titling All About In-Home Care. As a reminder, we're hosting a live stream event the last Monday of every month from 3 to 3:30 p.m. And if you have a certain topic that you'd like us to cover or a concern that you're experiencing as a caregiver, please let us know, and you're welcome to write comments in the chat or whatever format you're using, whether you've joined us on YouTube or on Facebook. Please feel free to give us feedback. Again, our live stream today is all about in-home care, and we're joined by 3 different in-home care providers. We have Providence Home Care, Parentis Health, and Senior Helpers. I'll go ahead and have each of you introduce yourselves. I'll just go ahead and say your first name, and then feel free to let us know who you are and where it is that you're coming to us from. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with Tyler.
Hello, my name is Tyler Sundberg, and I am with Providence Home Care, and I am the Manager of Strategy and Business Development for our team.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go ahead and have Alex go next.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Alex. I'm the manager here at Providence Home Care, and I oversee the day-to-day operations for our company.
Great, thank you. And then Tracy.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tracy Anderson, and I'm with Senior Helpers in North Central Orange County, and I'm the Community Relations Director.
Thank you, Tracy. And we'll go ahead and have Jackie and then Melody.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jackie Everino. I'm the Chief Growth Officer with Parentis Health, and we're here in Orange County.
And then Melody.
Hi, I'm Melody Hall. I am the Care Manager for Home Care for Parentis Health, which is a continuum of care home health agency in Orange County.
Great. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. I know everyone has busy schedules and a lot going on, so we really appreciate your time. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump into the different questions. And if you are watching this live stream and you do have questions about in-home care, or maybe we don't cover something or you want more information, please let us know. And we will try to get to your questions the best that we can. But to start us off, the first question is for Tracy. So Tracy, just what is in-home care? If I'm a family member and I'm looking at in-home care, what would you say? What is it?
So it's pretty simple. It's really finding a caregiver, see like helpers or some local caregiver agents, and hiring a private duty
Oh no, it looks like we're having a little bit of a connection issue with Tracy. Okay, it looks like you're back, Tracy. Would you like to go ahead and answer that again? What would you say in-home care is?
So it's pretty basic. It's basically just hiring a private duty in-home care company to come to your private home in the comfort of having someone help you with your daily needs, daily living needs.
Great, thank you. And then either, I believe Melody will probably answer this next one. What types of tasks can an in-home caregiver help you with?
Well, caregivers can help with a variety of tasks. They can do ADLs, activities of daily living, which are transfers, bathing, incontinence care, grooming, feeding, also IADLs, which is laundry, light housekeeping, medication reminders. So there's a whole host of different things depending upon the client that the caregivers can help with on a daily basis. Meal preparation, pets, walking a pet, even transportation if it's within the authorization of the company that we're working with. So that kind of all depends.
Right. No, that's great. And, we get a lot of questions about that, and so we work with a lot of family caregivers here at CRC. And so I just put together all the questions that we get asked the most often. Yeah. So these are really helpful responses. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And then the next one is for Tyler. What type of training does an in-home caregiver with your agency receive?
Well, we like to have caregivers come to us with a lot of experience and training. But Melody kind of hit it on the head with all the different tasks that they're able to do. We expect caregivers to be trained in how to help folks when they're in their home to help with activities of daily living. So can they help with transfers? Can they help with incontinent care, maybe bedbound care? Can they help with getting in and out of the shower or in and out of the tub? Can they do bed baths? Those are the basics that we expect caregivers to be trained on. But we have a variety of caregivers, some that are just companions that are there to be with someone, just sitting and almost like a friend that's just there to make sure someone's safe. But then as we work with hospice agencies, we work with home health agencies, we do expect caregivers to be trained also in basic life-saving things like CPR and first aid. But those are the basics that we expect caregivers to be trained in.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I know that's a big one, making sure somebody is CPR certified or basic life support. A lot of family members ask about those things as well. And then the next one is for Tracy. So as an in-home care agency, do you have insurance, or who are you regulated by? And I'm not sure if Tracy is frozen or not. It looks like she might be. Are you with us, Tracy? Okay. So we'll go ahead, and if anybody else would like to answer that question, we can still go ahead and ask that. Does anyone want to share, who regulates you as an in-home care agency? And then do you have insurance, and how does all of that work? Anybody want to answer that one?
Oh, I can answer that or give
Sure.
a little bit of our input at Parentis. Yeah, we're licensed through social services. All of our caregivers go through FBI background checks, fingerprinting. They all receive per IDs, which is identifying them with Guardian, which is the host that provides them clearance. And then we, work with our caregivers and training, and then get them out to the clients depending upon what the client's needs are. So basically, we are licensed through social services, and we adhere to everything through the social services, all the different pins that come in. We make sure we are on top of that compliance-wise.
Great. And then Tyler or Alex, anything else that you'd want to add to that? I want to make sure I give you the opportunity.
Yeah, along with being licensed, we're also bonded. So these are our employees. So if they are in the home, they're helping give it a bath, they throw their back out, something happens to them, that's all fully covered by us.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yeah, that's great to know too, because we do have a lot of family members who wonder about that. What happens? Do I need a special type of insurance? And when you're working with an in-home care agency like you all are a part of, those things are already covered. So that's really nice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where
And
if you
we've
were
got all of them
hiring
shipped.
privately, that would be an issue. And those are all things you would have to worry about if you're hiring privately.
Right. Thank you. And actually, Melody, the next question was for you, which is, what happens if I'm a family caregiver, what does that first phone call look like? When I call out, I reach out to Parentis or Providence, what does that call look like?
Well, that first phone call, I'm very candid with the person who's calling. It's usually an adult child, a family member. And one of the first things I want to find out is, what kind of service do they need? Are they looking for long hours or short hours? What is a primary diagnosis of their loved one? So that way I can figure out a plan, and our schedule can figure out a plan as to the perfect caregiver that's going to be going out. Some of the things we talk about, again, long-term, whether they want the short hours. Parentis has a wonderful thing called pop-in care, which nobody else really has. It's for the shorter hours of 1 to 4 hours with a minimum of 1 hour. That can be, a bed-bound patient who just needs a bath or a shower aid or medication reminders or anything like that. So those would be questions that I would ask, because we want to make sure that the families are comfortable in knowing that we can provide the services to their loved one, whatever that might be. So I'm very careful in speaking with the families themselves and understanding, the entire client, their loved ones, and what their needs are and how we can help. And if our agency can help them, there may be things that we can't help, and we may refer to someone else that we know can, another agency. So it's very important for us to get the whole picture to be able to help our clients. So that's some of the things that, then we would go into scheduling a free assessment, coming into their home. I would create a client profile and care plan for them. And then after that, it's an introduction of a caregiver, and then the services would start.
Great. And that actually, kind of the next question that we had. So that's almost that first phone call. You talk about all these different aspects and trying to find the right fit. And then it might be similar, it might be different for your organization, Alex. What would be the process between that phone, that once I hang up that phone, and then what happens between then and when I actually have a caregiver at my house to stay with my loved one?
Yeah, kind of similar. The first process with us is after you do that phone call, the first thing we do is we schedule a free consultation, and that can be set up sometimes the same day, if not the next day, or at your earliest convenience. And that's where we send one of our nurses out to the home. And they're there to answer all the questions that you have face to face. A lot of times families, this is brand new to them. They don't know what to expect. So we just want to put a face to the company so you can get somebody in your home. And then their second goal is to create what we call a care plan. So that's everything we need to know about your loved one, what their conditions are, what their diagnosis is, what their likes and dislikes are, what they're going to need assistance with, bathing, dressing, toileting, or is it just companionship? If there's pets in the home, we gather that information so we don't send you a caregiver that's allergic to a cat if you have cats. If there's a smoker in the home, which is totally fine, we'll just find a caregiver that's comfortable with that. So once that's created, then at this time when the nurse is in the home, if you have a schedule in mind, we can get that uploaded in our system at that time. Or if you still want to wait about it, what the nurse will do is still upload the care plan in the system, and then you can call us as soon as you're ready or have a schedule in mind to upload it. And then what happens is with this care plan, that's how we find the appropriate caregiver. So this care plan has gone over with the caregivers in detail to make sure it is the right fit. And then they have full access to this care plan to review if they need to review anything before they go to their shift.
Sounds like there's a significant emphasis on making sure it's a good match with the family and the person who's receiving the care, as well as the caregiver from your organization.
Absolutely.
Great. And if for some reason, I know this wasn't a question that I had sent you before, but if there's not a good fit or somebody requests a different caregiver, how does that work? Is that okay? What's that process like?
Yeah, that's totally fine. Not every caregiver is going to be the right fit for every client. So you can just call and request a different caregiver at any time. Now, if there's a reason or anything like that, we would definitely like to know that information. But if it's just not the right fit, it's not the right fit. We completely understand that. You're having a stranger in your home. We want you to be fully comfortable.
And this is the conversation that you have with the family, obviously ahead of time, right? That if it's not a fit, please call us and let us know. I mean, I think it's just having that open communication. And the reality is our key is to have that consistency with the same caregiver. And most families love that. But again, if it's not a fit, call and, we'll make sure that there's a change.
Great. Thank you. And this question was going to be for Tracy, but since she's not here, Tyler, maybe you could answer this one for me. If I'm a family member, will I get the same caregiver every time? Or if that is something that I want, how can I try to get that to happen?
That is an excellent question, because I think at every assessment, consultation, wherever we're at, meeting with a family, and I'm sure Parentis feels the same way, it's probably one of the first questions you get asked all the time is, will I have the same caregiver? And it kind of goes in with what some of the next questions about was scheduling. Because our goal is we want to keep the same caregivers going in a home over and over again, so we build that continuity. But sometimes, depending on the schedule, if you're there 7 days a week and we're there 24 hours a day, you're going to have multiple different caregivers coming into your home. If you have a schedule that's not consistent and you just call in as needed, you're probably going to have a different caregiver come out each time. So when we are there in the home doing the consultation and trying to figure out the needs, we try to figure out something consistent so that we can have the same caregiver come over and over again and build that continuity, because it can get stressful and somewhat irritating when you're having to train a different caregiver every time they come to the house and having to go through some of the same things over and over again. So depending on schedule, depending on needs, how often we're there, that would depend on whether we have the same caregiver returning. But again, like the previous question, if a family isn't comfortable with a caregiver that's been there, or let's say they've been together for a couple months, but all of a sudden that family wants a change, they can make that change. And also vice versa, if a caregiver doesn't feel comfortable in a home, we allow caregivers to also ask to be removed. And that's also part of the conversation that we have with families prior to starting, so that they know they're never stuck into a situation, but also kind of some of the expectations on providing an appropriate work environment.
Thank you. And then Melody, this kind of goes off of that as well.
It does.
So would it be better to have a schedule kind of created ahead of time? Is it better to kind of call in as needed, or what would you recommend to families?
It's absolutely better to have a schedule. So when we're doing the care plan, I always try to ask what would be their ideal schedule. Is it Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10 to 4? What would that look like? Because we want the consistency of that same caregiver, so that the client gets to build a rapport with that caregiver and a trust, so that there aren't all kind of different caregivers coming in and out. Now, understanding, just like Tyler said, if there's a schedule that's 7 days a week, the weekend could be a different caregiver, but we try to keep the consistency of the weekend caregiver as well. And then, the Monday through Friday, the same caregiver. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't call as needed. You can call as needed, but you're not promised, to get your same caregiver or any one of them, or if we even have someone available in that area. So we will make every effort to help those that are called for as needed. But again, I always let them know. I mean, we can't say yes on that and no one's available. So we want to make sure that they completely understand that while you can call in as needed, it's not always available.
Right.
We try our
there's
best.
A lot of moving parts to coordinate.
There's a lot of moving parts. Yeah,
there really is. There really is.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we do our best in accommodating, and I think we do a really good job. And actually, our operations manager, she goes out herself to go and take care of a lot of our clients who need that extra help, or we may not have a caregiver available. She will go in and do it herself. So
right. It's a lot of coordinating that you're all doing.
Yes,
so.
there is.
And then let's see. It looks like Tyler, you're next. So what's typically the cost of in-home care? Is there a range? And then does it change depending on maybe the person's needs? Would you mind speaking to that a little?
Yeah, and that is, I think, an ultimate quest for all home care agencies to kind of figure out what is the cost of care, because the cost of care has continually increased as time has gone on. I know when I first started in caregiving, it was significantly less than it is today. But you're going to see an average range in Orange County of anywhere from like $28 up to $48 an hour. And most agencies are going to work off an hourly rate. For example, our agency right now, we have a flat rate. We're $35 an hour. We have a 4-hour minimum. So it doesn't matter if it's nighttime, weekends, holidays, and things like that. We're at $35 an hour. On a holiday, and you'll find this with probably every home care company out there, there will be a charge of overtime for time and a half on those holidays, because that's what the caregivers get paid on a holiday. So there can be some variation there. When you're sitting down talking with a home care agency about costs, there's other things to look into as well, because cost of care is so expensive. We partner with organizations like CRC who can offer grants to help with some of the cost and burden of caregiving. We work with the VA on some of the contract work that they have for homemaker services. We work with CalOptima through their CalAIM program for some of the assistance they provide there. There's a number of different ways that you can look into to get grants and to work with companies and organizations that can provide some help. But as a general rule, you're looking at an out-of-pocket cost, and primary insurance isn't going to cover the majority of the cost of caregiving.
Right.
Thank you. And then Melody or Jackie, would you like to add to that at all? Just because that was the next question, was does insurance cover in-home care? Or are there any other ways of paying for in-home care that aren't just out of pocket? So I know Tyler mentioned, here we at CRC can sometimes do grants to help, or the VA has some benefits, but what about any other options, Jackie or Melody?
Sure. Well, there's also long-term care, and long-term care policies. We have several of our clients that do have long-term care policies, and we help facilitate that entire process for them. So many times you get a long-term care policy. It's a lot of writing in those policies, and it's so confusing. So they really don't know what their waiting period is, what that looks like. So Melody is amazing, and she'll sit with the client and make sure that they go through that together as a process to understand how many hours they may have. So long-term care, so correcting what Tyler had stated, it is predominantly private pay, but there are long-term care policies that do cover home care.
Great. And I hope anybody who's watching heard that we as professionals get confused and a little overwhelmed looking at different forms and insurance policies, so you're not alone. And then Melody, how is in-home care different than home health? I get this question a lot from family caregivers that we work with, thinking that they're going to get in-home care through the doctor, and I think that might be home health, but could you kind of speak to what the differences are?
Yes, absolutely. We get a lot of that as well. There's a confusion of home care, typical home care, and home health. And the bottom line of the difference is that home care is non-medical. Okay, so we can administer medications. We can do medication reminders from a client who has a pill box. So with home health, of course, they have their LVNs. They can provide wound care and insulin and all the things that someone medically can do that we can't do on the home care side. So essentially, we at home care really try to provide so the client can keep their independence at home with dignity. And allowing to, helping them with their ADLs and their IADLs and things of that nature. But bottom line is that we're not medical. And that's what the difference is. And we get calls all the time, and we're transferring to our home health, or home health is transferring to us, because it can be very confusing, for the families. Yeah, but that's pretty much, the bottom line.
Okay. And my understanding too is that with home health, it's typically a very short-term situation, maybe X amount of visits and whatnot. And so that's actually the next question was for Alex. How long can someone receive in-home care services?
Yeah. So are you referring to the grants? CRC?
So no, not necessarily. Just with in-home care in general, as opposed to home health, where there's typically 8 visits or 6 visits. How long can someone receive in-home care services through your agency?
How that they are completely in the driver's seat on that. We've had clients for 10 plus years that's been on service with us.
All right. That's incredible. And that's, a big thing is that there's not really any time frame, right? Maybe somebody does use in-home care for a few months, or after their loved one maybe had a decline or something, or depending on their family situation. But like you just mentioned, it can be years and years and years. There's not necessarily, you only get until this point and then you're done. You can continue to go on.
Yeah, and also with that,
That's
we have
the
clients that
beauty.
use this for one day of service. So they just had surgery. They just want somebody to stick with them the next day to make sure they're okay or get them home. That's totally fine. We have no problem with that.
Great.
It also depends
But I also
on the
love
contract. Like CRC OC, there's authorizations, and it's from one date to, that has a start date and an end date. So it all depends. If it's a private client, they can go till whenever, 100 years. And we actually have one that's 101 years old. She just had a birthday last week. And she's been with us for years. But then again, on the contracting side, it all depends on the authorization that we receive. A lot of times they're accepted depending upon the need of the client.
Right. And I'm sure there probably is. Oh, go ahead, Jackie.
Oh, no. Sorry, Rachel. I was going to say that the beauty of home care, so many families ask this, is that so many times they have home care and they might have home health as well, because home health is billing their Part A for Medicare, and hospice is billing Part A. So a lot of times you will see that home care is really that entry point for that family to really understand the healthcare. There's a lot to understand. It's very confusing. And so knowing that they can actually do private pay and get some of the assistance that they need at home, then they can actually be on home health at the same time and be able to get those medical needs addressed.
Yeah.
Great. And actually, and that was,
go ahead. Just the beauty of Parentis Health having the continuum of care, just as Jackie was explaining, we do home care, home health, we do hospice, we have residential care, and we have non-medical transportation. And of course, the wonderful pop-in care of the short hours. So you may start off at home care, but then as your condition may decline, you might need some home health, you might need some PT. And again, I'm promoting Parentis Health because we have the continuum of care. Yeah.
Sure. And that's
what it takes a village, for sure. It takes a village. I will tell you that.
Oh, absolutely.
There's so many seniors out there that just, they need our assistance. And it's, as we know, it's that population is growing. So.
Absolutely. And maybe Tyler or Alex, this next one, we talked about in-home care helping with a lot of the activities of daily living or instrumental activities of daily living. But what about if somebody does need a little bit more support with more medical tasks? Let's say someone is diabetic, they might need insulin, or maybe some wound care, or, more support with medication management. What would you suggest?
So that is something that actually comes up probably more often than you would think. And there are companies out there that offer those types of skilled services on a private pay basis. Just as we do private pay and caregiving, there are some agencies out there that do private pay and skilled services so that they can have a nurse come out to do insulin injections, that can help with doing wound care, that can help with doing trach care, that can help with doing all sorts of different things that require a nurse, as opposed to having a non-medical caregiver to be there. Cost of that does significantly go up, unfortunately, but those are possibilities. And I think it's also one of the things to look at when you're looking for a caregiving agency. And just as Melody and Jackie kind of referred to that continuum of care, when you have home health services and hospice services at your disposal, sometimes you can get creative on ways to utilize multiple different services where some can be paid for by insurance, some can be done from a private pay basis, to be able to get all of the different needs taken care of. Because when you are receiving some of those skilled care services, you can get some of that stuff done while you still have a caregiver there. Caregivers can be trained to be able to communicate with the nursing services and nursing staff. So when certain needs arise, they can get that stuff taken care of. So there's a few different ways to do that. And it's an important thing to discuss during that consultation so we can figure out ways to be most advantageous for the family.
Great. Yeah, it sounds like one of the best things that a family can do when they call in is to really kind of lay out what's going on, what their loved one's needs are, to try to make sure that communication is, upfront right away. If there's any, behaviors or medications or different things that are going on, to make it as successful as possible is what it sounds like to me. And Myra, you mentioned, or I apologize, Melody, you mentioned this a little bit earlier already, but for some people, they may not need as much direct care with those ADLs, like we talked about, but maybe they do need, kind of like you mentioned, meal prep or some transportation, like cleaning. Yeah. Is that possible? It sounds like yes.
Yeah, that's actually part of the IADLs, the instrumental activities of daily living. So you have the meal prep, the medication reminders, walking the dog if necessary. If they're a private client, we can do outings with them, transportation, meal prep, shopping. That's all part of the IADLs that we can do.
Great. Yeah. We do get that a lot too as well. Can they help with, it's really hard for me to make the bed, or laundry is just really challenging.
Yes.
Right.
Making the bed is quite challenging. So that's something we help. Well, stripping the bed, washing the linen, putting them back on, all those little things, that are difficult. All part of the IADLs.
Great. Thank you. And then Tyler, what kind of shifts or days, hours, are there limitations to using in-home care?
Yeah, that is also part of when we discuss in the consultation, is because we get asked, can I have someone one day a week? Can I have them in the morning? Can I have them at night? Or what if I can't sleep at night and someone needs to be here? So those are all things that we also try to address, because there's so many different needs for so many different people.
Yes.
And I'm going to say, on the norm for home care agencies, they're going to work with your schedule and trying to figure out what's best. And so you can have someone on the weekends, you can have someone at night, you can have someone just one day a week, or you can have someone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just depending on what those needs are. But that's what is, I think, so great about what we do in the caregiving world, is it changes so often, but we can adapt and we can change. But the biggest part of that is communication with families, and for those families and contacts to want to open up and create that relationship with us so that we can talk it through and figure out the best ways to be of help. Because maybe when someone discharges from a hospital, they hear in their head they need 24-hour care, which is very expensive. But when we sit down and we discuss, okay, what family do you have around? What other type of help do you have? We can figure out ways to make it affordable, but to get as much help as possible. So that way, yes, you could have daytime care, or maybe you just need nighttime care, and figuring it out that way.
Okay. Yeah, so it can be overnight, it can be during the day, weekends, holidays. So it's a 24/7 kind of situation. Great.
Yep.
And then the next two questions are for everyone. And so maybe we'll figure out a way to go in order here together. But this question is, do you have any recommendations for family members to help make in-home caregiving more successful? So maybe we can have Jackie go first and then Melody.
Sure. So Tyler mentioned this. I think communication and transparency are really important, especially when you're first meeting because we deal with families sometimes that it's hard. Maybe their loved one just got diagnosed with, let's say it's Alzheimer's, dementia, or dementia in general, MCI, and they're just in denial, right? And so I think it's really being transparent and also us asking those questions. So I would say transparency and just communicate all every step of the way, not just from the time that we're there, but every step of the way, so that we know that we have the right caregiver, that we are doing the things that need to be done, but it's this constant check-in with them. So communication is huge.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And then Melody, anything that you'd like to add to that?
I think Jackie covered it all. I know for me as a care manager, one of the biggest things is communicating with my families, getting to know them, getting to know the needs, making sure that they completely understand what Parentis Health is all about, and making sure answering all the questions that they might have, just kind of making them feel comfortable in knowing that we as an agency are doing our due diligence on our side to get them the best caregivers that we possibly can. So I do a lot of care management with my clients. It's not just doing a care plan assessment and cope and goodbye. No, I'm daily talking to my clients and their families and making sure that we're providing the best care possible for them. So lots of care management involved.
Mm-hmm. It's good to know. It sounds like the families are not alone, whether they have, of course, they have the in-home caregiver who's there, but they also have, it sounds like, a lot of individuals through both of your agencies to help support them as well. Yeah. And then Tyler and Alex, did you want to add anything to that? Just any recommendations for family members so that in-home care can be more successful?
No, just don't be scared to ask questions. Ask questions, whatever. Yeah. This is new to everybody. And we've been doing this a long time. So just any questions, just ask away. And then that way it will go better for everybody.
Like everybody said, open transparency from both sides. More questions, the better, the more you can understand, and make that communication just a two-way street all the time.
So definitely communication, it sounds like. I think everyone touched on that, the importance of it, and really that transparency and working together. The last question that I had for you all was, what do you think is important for a family member to know about in-home care services? So if there was one thing that you get a lot of questions about, or one thing that you just wish everyone knew about what you provide, what would that maybe be? And we'll do the same order. We'll have Jackie, then Melody.
So I think we're all laughing, but Melody and I just talked about this. So we definitely assist with light housekeeping and things like that, but we are not housekeepers. And I think that sometimes we literally just had this conversation. And it's confusing, right? Like, you can help me fix the bed, you can help to do some light prep and things like that. But we're not there to clean the entire house, the roof, the basement. Well, we're not back east, so we don't have basements here. But I exaggerate, because the reality is, I think that that's where the communication piece comes in, right? We are here to take care of your loved one and some of the things that we can do, right? But we're not the housekeeper. And there is definitely a difference, because a lot of our caregivers are CNAs. So.
Great, that's good to know. Melody, anything you want to add to that? That one thing?
Just to kind of, let the families know, we take a whole person approach to their loved ones. And what that means is our caregivers are the eyes and ears. They're the ones that are there all week long, whether they see a decline or progress. These are things that they will report to us. And then us as care managers can talk to the families and say, hey, caregiver reported mom is declining a little bit and she's having a hard time walking. We can offer home health or maybe some PT, just making sure that we take the whole person approach to the clients and their families. I think that's important for them to know.
I think that would definitely be very comforting too, to know
Yeah.
that, not only is this person there taking care of your loved one, but they're, providing that feedback, whether it's,
Absolutely.
like you said, improving or declining, no matter what's
Mm-hmm.
going on.
Right.
Thank you, Melody. And
Yeah, you're
then
welcome.
Tyler and Alex, anything that you'd like to add? What would be the most important thing for a family member to know about in-home care services?
I think there's, from my perspective, the number one is always making sure families understand the cost of care, because sometimes they're in such a rush to make something happen and they don't quite understand until they get that first invoice in the mail, and kind of it can be startling. So just understanding the true cost of care, but then also just understanding scope of practice of what we do, because there are so many ways that people can get confused between home health services, hospice services, our services. So between those two things, understanding the cost of care and understanding scope of practice for a caregiver, those would be the two most important things that I look at.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tyler. And then Alex, anything you'd like to add?
I think everybody nailed it.
Well, good. And throughout, when each of you were sharing, I saw each of you nodding. So to me, that was just agreement that, yes, these are things that are important for families to know, and things that can help make the in-home caregiving situation more successful for everyone. Like each of you mentioned, for many families, this is the first time they've had a stranger in their home taking care of their loved one, which can be really, really scary. So I think that you all coming on today and providing such valuable information and answering some of the questions that I think everybody thinks about, but maybe it's a little too scary still to pick up the phone and make that call and ask those questions. I think you've all provided a lot of really good insight for family members who may be looking for in-home care, or individuals who are looking for a caregiver for themselves. So we really do appreciate each of you taking the time to join us this afternoon for our live stream. And we will be doing another live stream again the last Monday of the month, which will be November 27th. Our next live stream is all about counseling. So therapy, what is that? What does it look like? What can I expect? So just like we talked about kind of the ins and outs of in-home care, that's what we'll talk about next month. But if you do have any questions, comments, please feel free to let us know. And again, I can't thank each of you enough for joining us this afternoon to share such valuable information with the community. So thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Everyone have a great afternoon. Take care.